When a relationship with a narcissistic person ends, one of the hardest things to deal with is the silence that comes next. The calls stop, the messages disappear, even the arguments suddenly go quiet. You may look at their social media and see pictures of them smiling, going out, acting relaxed, and looking like life is perfect. Most people see that and assume the story is over. They think this person has moved on, stopped caring, and closed the door for good. But very often, that is not what is really happening. A healthy person usually handles a breakup by feeling the loss, facing the pain, and little by little accepting that the relationship is over. It hurts, but with time they adjust. They slowly stop living in the past and start looking toward the future. A narcissistic person often does not process the ending in that same way. Even if they look calm on the outside, something very different may be happening inside. They can stay mentally tied to the situation for a long time, and this is the key part, so stay with me. That attachment is usually not about love. It is not about care. It is not even about truly missing the bond. It is often about something deeper and far more self-focused. They may depend on attention, admiration, validation, and emotional reactions from other people, the way a fire depends on oxygen. During the relationship, your energy may have helped keep their self-image alive every single day. So when the relationship ends and your attention is no longer there, they may not simply feel sad. They may feel cut off from something they believed they could still reach whenever they wanted. What they often miss is not always you as a full person. What they miss is the access. They miss being able to shift your mood. They miss being able to pull a reaction from you. They miss the feeling that they can still reach into your emotional world whenever they choose. To them, relationships are often less about connection and more about control. Instead of seeing you as a separate person with your own mind, your own limits, and your own right to leave, they may begin to see you as part of their system, someone who reflects their image, someone who provides emotion on demand, someone who is expected to remain available. That is why leaving can hit so hard. The moment you stop explaining, stop defending, stop trying to fix things, and stop participating in the old cycle, something major changes. Their easy access is gone. The control they counted on is gone. For a very fragile ego, that can feel like a deep wound. And this is where it gets more intense. Accepting that you chose to walk away would require honesty, accountability, and self-reflection. It would mean admitting they do not own another person's time, thoughts, or future. For someone with this pattern, those truths can feel unbearable. So instead of accepting the loss, they may twist it. Instead of grieving it, they may fixate on it. Instead of letting go, they may become more focused on trying to recover what they believe was taken from them. Not love, not closeness, control. That is often the real issue. And when you understand that, a lot of confusing behavior starts making much more sense. The strange part is that your independence can make this reaction even stronger. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding the old pattern that once made them feel powerful. When you stop arguing, they lose the emotional spark they used to pull from you. When you stop chasing them, they lose the proof that they still matter enough to move your heart, your mind, and your attention. And when you begin building a peaceful life without them, that can affect them even more than open conflict ever did. Every step you take toward healing becomes a reminder that their grip is slipping. Every sign of your growth becomes proof that their influence is fading. Every quiet moment of your happiness becomes evidence that you are learning how to live without them. For someone who depends on control to feel steady inside, that can be deeply upsetting. They may look at your peace and take it as rejection. They may look at your healing and see a loss of power. They may look at your freedom and feel failure. That is why many of them do not simply move on in a clean and healthy way. Instead, they may begin watching from a distance. On the outside, they may tell people they are over it. They may say they never think about you. They may act cold, casual, or unaffected if your paths cross. But behind that public image, there may still be a strong urge to know what is happening in your life. They want updates. They want clues. They want some kind of proof that they still matter. And if that hidden need is still active, silence does not always mean they are done. Sometimes it means they are watching more quietly than before. That watching is usually not obvious. It is often subtle, quiet, and hidden behind normal-looking behavior. They may check your social media. They may watch your stories just minutes after you post them. If looking directly feels too obvious, they may use another account, a fake profile, or some alternate way to keep an eye on things without being noticed. Sometimes they may ask mutual friends simple questions that sound casual on the surface, but are really meant to gather information. They may bring up your name in a conversation just to see what details come out. They may ask indirect questions and pretend they mean nothing, but often they do mean something. The goal is not always conversation. The goal is information. They may want to know if you miss them. They may want to know if you are struggling. They may want to know whether someone new is in your life. Most of all, they may want to know if they still live somewhere in your mind. And this is where many people start feeling confused. Small things begin to happen. An old post suddenly gets a like. A reaction appears, then vanishes. A tiny interaction happens that looks meaningless to everyone else, yet it leaves you unsettled for hours. These moments are often not random. They can be tests, little signals thrown into your space to see if you still notice, to see if your mood still shifts, to see if your body still tenses, to see if your thoughts still circle back. Because even a small reaction can give them what they are looking for: validation, proof, a sense that some part of their influence is still alive. And if you are wondering why emotional distance matters so much, this is exactly why it matters. The less you react, the less feedback they receive. The less feedback they receive, the more unsure they become. And uncertainty is something they often struggle with in a very deep way. As your silence continues, their frustration can grow. As your healing becomes more real, their curiosity can grow too. As your independence gets stronger, their need to check whether they still have any effect on you can become even stronger. This creates a very strange situation. Someone may claim they do not care, yet still think about you often in private. They may insist they have moved on, yet still monitor your life from the edges. For many people, this feels confusing because silence looks like closure. It looks finished. It looks like the chapter has ended. But under that silence, something else may still be active. They may still be trying to measure their impact. They may still be searching for signs that they matter. They may still be looking for proof that their place in your emotional world has not disappeared. And the truth is, that search can continue for a long time. One of the hardest things for them to tolerate is no contact that stays firm. Stay with this point, because it explains a lot. When you stop engaging, stop defending, stop answering emotional traps, and stop giving them your attention, you remove the fuel they once relied on. You remove their access. You remove the feedback loop. You remove the easy path back into your nervous system. And in that empty space, something powerful begins to happen. You start rebuilding your life on your own terms. You stop letting them shape your identity. You stop letting them define your emotions. And that new reality can be very hard for them to face. That is why unexpected things can start happening even when you truly believe it is all over. You may think enough time has passed. You may feel stronger. You may feel like the chapter is closed and your life is finally becoming peaceful again. Then suddenly, something strange happens. You see them at a coffee shop you usually visit. You notice them at the gym around the time you always go. You run into them at a grocery store near your home. You spot them at a gathering connected to your social circle. It can feel random at first. After all, people live in the same city. People cross paths, public spaces are shared. Sometimes it really is coincidence, but when it happens again, and then in places that feel too connected to your normal routine, a different thought starts to form. You begin asking yourself whether it is really random. You start questioning your own perception. You wonder if you are seeing patterns that do not exist. In some cases, it may still be chance. In other cases, it may not be chance at all. During the relationship, they may have learned a great deal about your habits. They know your favorite places. They know your rough schedule. They know where you feel comfortable and when you are likely to be there. When that information is used after the breakup, it can create encounters that look innocent to everyone else but feel deeply unsettling to you. And that innocent appearance matters. It protects them. If anyone questions it, they can shrug and say it just happened. If you react, they can make your reaction look like the real problem. That is part of what makes these moments so disorienting. The behavior can hide behind normal life while still feeling far from normal to the person experiencing it. In many cases, the real goal of these encounters is not love, closure, or even getting back together. It is often something simpler and more self-serving. They want to watch your reaction. They want to see whether their presence still changes your body language, your emotions, your energy. They want proof that they can still enter your world and leave a mark, even if it is only for a few seconds. They may look for eye contact. They may notice whether you appear tense. They may watch whether you freeze, get angry, or seem shaken. Even a tiny visible reaction can become meaningful to them because it confirms that some level of influence is still there. That is why emotional control becomes so important in these moments. Not because your feelings are wrong, but because your reaction can become the answer they were hoping to get. And this is where many people misunderstand what healing looks like. Healing is not just feeling better when you are alone. Sometimes healing is keeping your center when something designed to disturb you appears right in front of you. The less reaction they receive, the less they gain. The less they gain, the more uncertain things become for them. And as time passes, another shift may happen. Many people assume that once they start healing, the other person will slowly lose interest and move on. In healthy endings, that is often true. But here, the opposite can sometimes happen. The more peaceful your life becomes, the more visible their loss of control becomes. The more you stop looking back, the more obvious your freedom becomes. And instead of fading away, they may become louder in other ways. This is where the story often moves online. And if you have seen this before, you already know how unsettling that part can feel. Their social media may suddenly become more active. The posts may become more frequent. The photos may look more polished. The image they present may feel carefully designed, almost too perfect. Everything may seem selected to send a message. Every picture may highlight happiness. Every update may show success. Every post may look like a performance of a life that is shining. Sometimes they may put a new relationship on display in a very intense way. There may be constant photos, constant updates, constant public signs of excitement. The bond may be shown as flawless, especially at the beginning. At the same time, they may highlight purchases, trips, social events, career progress, lifestyle upgrades, or anything else that pulls attention. On the surface, it can look like real joy, but very often it is more about presentation than peace. It is about managing how they are seen. It is about controlling the story. It is about shaping how the past will be remembered. Sometimes they may even post things that feel oddly personal. A quote, a caption, a vague message that seems general to everyone else but feels aimed at you. That can create a lot of confusion. You may wonder if it is meant for you. You may wonder if you are reading too much into it. But here's the important point. People who are truly at peace usually do not feel the need to prove it over and over. People who have honestly moved on do not spend so much energy making sure a former partner might notice. So when the display becomes louder, it often raises a bigger question. Why is the display needed at all? Very often, your calm life represents something they do not know how to accept. Your independence represents distance they cannot control. Your progress represents freedom. And freedom, to someone who once expected access to your emotions, can feel like a direct threat to the image they held of themselves. Because of that, indirect testing may continue for a long time. When one path stops working, they may try another. When direct contact is not possible, they may move through side doors instead. This is often where mutual friends, shared contacts, or casual acquaintances enter the picture. These people may not even know what is happening. They may simply be having ordinary conversations while unknowingly passing along pieces of your life. Your name may come up in a normal chat. Questions may be asked that sound harmless. Curiosity may appear casual. But underneath it, there may be a real desire for updates. They may want to know if you are dating. They may want to know how you are doing emotionally. They may want to know whether you still talk about them at all. Most of all, they may want reassurance that they still exist somewhere in your awareness. The silence created by no contact can feel deeply uncomfortable for them. Without information, they lose clarity. Without clarity, they lose certainty. Without certainty, their sense of control starts to weaken. So they may keep hovering around the edges of your world, not always in open ways, but in quiet ones. And this is why even tiny details can matter to them. A mention, a rumor, a secondhand comment, a clue that says they have not fully disappeared from your inner life. If you have ever felt like they were trying to stay present without actually stepping forward, you are not imagining how odd that feels. Stay with this, because there is another pattern that can make the whole thing even more confusing. Sometimes it is not only your present they circle around. Sometimes they keep dragging the past back into the room. Instead of fully letting old situations go, they may keep returning to them. Past arguments may be brought up again and again. Old conflicts may be reopened long after you thought they were done. Events you believed were finished may suddenly become topics once more. These returns to the past are not always about closure. In many cases, they are about keeping emotional connection alive, even if that connection is negative, tense, or unresolved. If the past stays active, then some link between you stays active too. They may also retell old events in a way that supports the version of the story they want people to believe now. Details may shift, responsibility may slide, their role may soften while yours becomes heavier. This can leave you feeling like closure never fully arrives because the past is never allowed to stay in the past. At the same time, they may move in cycles, silence for a while, then a sudden message, distance for months, then an indirect signal, coldness. Then reappearance. That inconsistency can create a powerful kind of confusion. It can make the whole situation feel unfinished even when no real relationship is left. And that unfinished feeling is what keeps many people mentally tied to the pattern. It creates questions, it creates doubt, it creates emotional static that keeps them occupying space in your mind long after the relationship itself has ended. This is one of the reasons no contact can feel so hard in the beginning. You are not only breaking a habit, you are stepping out of a system that was built on reaction, confusion, and unfinished loops. But once you see that pattern clearly, something changes. You stop chasing meaning in every small sign. You stop searching for hidden messages in every sudden shift, and that is where your freedom starts getting stronger. The cycle usually continues only as long as it still receives something back. A reaction, attention, emotional energy, mental space. The moment those rewards begin to disappear, the pattern starts to weaken. When there is no response, no emotional return, and no visible proof that they can still disturb your inner world, the reinforcement fades. The less reinforcement there is, the less power the old dynamic has. Over time, what once felt overwhelming can begin to lose its grip on your daily life. That does not mean you never feel anything. It means you stop feeding it. You stop giving it the center of the stage. You begin to understand that silence is not emptiness. Sometimes silence is strength. Sometimes silence is the first clear boundary that ever really held. Sometimes silence is the thing that says, without one extra word, you no longer get access to me. And for someone who once depended on that access, that can be the hardest message of all. If they are still watching, still testing, still circling, it often says less about love and more about lost control. That is the truth many people miss at first. They think obsession must mean deep feeling, but often it means deep entitlement. It means they are struggling with the fact that your life is no longer open to them in the old way. And once you truly understand that, their behavior becomes less mysterious. It may still feel upsetting at times. It may still catch you off guard, but it stops defining your reality. You begin to see the pattern for what it is, not a sign you should go back, not a sign they have changed, not a sign the bond was special in some magical way. Often, it is just the final noise made by a system that is losing power. What remains after that is your space, your peace, and your future. Your job is not to decode every move, track every signal, or prove what their intentions are with perfect certainty. Your job is to protect your peace, to trust the progress you have made, to keep building a life that no longer bends around their behavior. The more you do that, the more the old pattern fades into the background. And that is the part that matters most, not what they post, not whether they watch, not whether they ask about you through other people. What matters is that you stop living as if your healing depends on what they do next, because it does not. Your healing grows every time you choose not to step back into confusion. It grows every time you refuse to explain yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. It grows every time you let your calm be stronger than the need to react. And yes, there may still be odd moments, unexpected sightings, strange online behavior, subtle attempts to pull your attention back, but those moments only keep power if they still control your focus. Once they stop owning that focus, the whole dynamic starts to collapse. So if the silence has made you wonder whether they are truly done, remember this. Silence does not always mean peace on their side. Sometimes it means they no longer have direct access, and they are still trying to make sense of that loss in their own way. But your path is different now. Your path is forward. And the strongest answer you can give is not a speech, not an argument, not a dramatic reaction. It is a steady life, a clear boundary, a calm mind, a future that keeps opening step by step without asking for their permission.